There's been a lot of news surrounding Kick, a newer streaming platform that competes with Twitch and YouTube. Some folks in the Splatoon community have been asking for my thoughts about the streaming landscape and whether the platform is worth considering, so I thought I'd compile my thoughts here. Bear in mind, these are my personal thoughts, with my own brand being in consideration, and based only on information that I am aware of. I wouldn't be the first person I'd trust on this. I try my best on this channel to stay in my lane, to only talk about what I feel confident I know, and right now I'm definitely at least hitting the warning track on this metaphorical highway. I haven't made any kind of major journalistic effort to dig deep into this. There may be some pieces of misinformation built into my impression, and I'd encourage you to do your own research instead of just trusting me here when you have your own business decisions to make. I'm sure there are other channels that have more informed opinions than mine, but I think I've seen enough to make the decision that's right for me, at the very least, and that's what I will be sharing. One other disclaimer. You should really think hard about how applicable my situation is to yours. Right now, streaming isn't even really a major source of income for me. YouTube ad revenue is where most of my groceries come from, with Patreon and Medify helping out a lot on top of it. I'm not even really incentivized to stream that much, when I could be making much steadier money cranking out more videos and teaching more lessons. That said, I think that's a trend across most platforms. Growth tends to come from YouTube videos and shorts content these days, stuff that you can post to a platform that has a discoverability algorithm that'll show you to thousands of people in a very short amount of time. When you hit a certain critical mass, yeah, something like Twitch subscriptions can really start to become a meaningful amount of money. But sponsorships and partner deals and ad revenue from YouTube videos can be worth more than the subscriptions at a lot of different scales. So I think my situation may be something worth learning from, even if you think your intentions are to become a streamer. We'll start by talking about the draw of Kick, why it's being considered. A major pain point that creators have been complaining about on Twitch in particular is the 50-50 revenue split between the platform and creators. In the past, the revenue split was 70-30. And then in 2020, Twitch announced that it had to abruptly change to 50-50, with the exception of some private partner agreements. There's now the Partner Plus program, which some Twitch partners can use to get that 70-30 split back on the first $100,000 earned, at which point it goes back to 50-50. Obviously, that revenue split is going to matter for some people, particularly the mid-sized streamers who are making just enough to get by from streaming. Those folks may have been just making do with what they had, but then got undercut by the revenue split change, and those people will be hurting, and it might make sense for them to switch platforms. I would like to point out, though, that those aren't generally the loudest voices complaining about the revenue split. The people you're likely to hear from about that revenue split are the large Twitch streamers, the ones who are going to be fine either way, the ones the streaming services are competing over. Their audiences are so much bigger that more people hear their opinions, so they're the ones who really drive a lot of the discourse around this. They're certainly affected a lot in absolute terms, in that 50% of the massive amount of income they generate is out of their hands, but the 50% they are getting is far more than enough for them to live comfortably, so I take the complaints there with a grain of salt. So, revenue split matters. Maybe not as much as it's argued that it does, but it does matter, and Kick is offering a revenue split not of 50-50, but of 95-5. For some people, dollar signs are lighting up in their eyes. For me, my eyes are narrowing in suspicion. Twitch has never been a profitable company, even with that 50-50 split. I can't make very much reasoned discussion of their business plan because I'm not a business analyst and I don't work for them, but I do know that they've been scrambling recently to start trying to turn a profit, as they're likely getting pressured by their parent company to not be a money pit and instead become a money pile, or at least maybe like a level money floor that you could walk across safely without having reason to file an OSHA complaint. Twitch have been in the game for a pretty long time, and they're backed by Amazon, a company worth more than the federal budgets of most countries. Kick does have backing from a billion-dollar parent company, which we'll get to, but Amazon is in the hundreds of billions, or even upward of $1 trillion by some estimations that I'm seeing in a cursory Google search. It's orders of magnitude larger, whatever the actual numbers are. Sure, there are probably some inefficient practices, and I'm sure organizing themselves differently could save money. but to suggest, as Kick does with this revenue split, that they can be more profitable with 5% of a streamer's revenue than Twitch can be with 50% is, at first glance, a little suspicious. Can they really operate 10 times more efficiently than the pioneer of online streaming platforms currently operates in the long term? Or is this maybe an early marketing push to get people to switch before changing the split later? The high-profile move to pay XQC just an absolutely obscene amount of money to switch to Kick is also something that feels more like a marketing stunt to make headlines than something they can reasonably offer even to that many high-profile streamers. Very, very few people are anywhere near XQC's size. And at that point, the platforms are going to directly compete to have them. A streamer who isn't already known to all the platforms by name has no reason to care about the deal that they gave XQC. It's just not representative of the experience that almost anyone else is going to have there. Speaking of the experience people are going to have there, it's really important to talk about some potential safety concerns. Some of the biggest names on Kick right now are people who had numerous issues with Twitch's moderation. A lot of their stated reasons for switching to Kick are that they'll be moderated less harshly there. That immediately brands Kick as the place to go if you don't want to face consequences for things that you say to a lot of people. If you go there, you're going to have more problems with bad behavior in your audience and among your fellow streamers, with less recourse from the company who runs the platform in response to it. The parent company of Kick is Stake.com, a cryptocurrency gambling service. Gambling by itself is often problematic. I've seen some really gross ads for casinos that make it seem like a place where you can get rich quick, when in fact you're often more likely to get struck by lightning than to hit a jackpot. It's a known issue that people can become addicted to gambling, and even short of that, it's very important to set personal boundaries while gambling to avoid causing yourself financial hardship. Games are designed to get you to keep trying even though the odds are ultimately against you. The house always wins. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to keep the lights on in the house, or hire people to run the house. On top of that, though, cryptocurrency itself is a highly volatile, speculative asset. It does not outcompete existing government-backed currencies for use as money, not just because of its value fluctuating as rapidly as it does, but also because it just poses logistical issues for making normal purchases that make traditional currencies preferable. If you were to try and use cryptocurrency to buy groceries, sometimes the transaction time would be something like 10 minutes before it would go through, as opposed to the few seconds between when you put your card in and then a receipt prints out and the cashier says, "Have a nice day." Those 10 minutes do not work in that environment, and so it's not practical. Owning cryptocurrency is more similar to owning poker chips than owning money. You haven't made any money you can use on groceries until you cash out. And until you cash out, there's a chance that you lose what you have, because in the crypto space, there's a chance that in seconds, the crypto that you own devalues massively. You might be able to make money on a fortunate trade, but you can also lose a lot on an unfortunate trade. It's a way more risky investment than what your financial advisor would probably want you to get involved in. A cryptocurrency gambling service is going to draw a lot of young people who are looking to get rich quick without worrying about providing a lot of value to other people in exchange for that wealth. The cryptosphere is full of scams, full of what crypto users will call rug pulls, where a new currency or an NFT is minted, and investment in that currency or that NFT is encouraged, and hype is built around the product, and small low-quality demos are created to further sell the promise of that product, before the creators abruptly shut the whole community down and run off with the money. Making money off crypto in the first place often depends on convincing more gullible people than yourself to buy in, so it drives the price of the cryptocurrency up for when you decide to sell and profit from other people overvaluing it. Unlike other investments, buying into a coin or an NFT tends not to result in the people receiving that investment to make something of value, like, say, investing in a business in the stock market. What causes the price to go up is hype and greed, the hope that if enough people get excited about nothing, you'll get rich. Whoever gets stuck having bought in after the early adopters decide it's time to sell and abandon the coin is left feeling like a sucker. If a friend were to ask me if I thought they should get into crypto to any extent, my advice would be that it's a really high risk at best, and probably unethical regardless of how you intend to interact with the space. Now, I'm not on the most solid ground preaching that you should choose Twitch over Kick because of the ethics of their parent companies. Amazon has its own share of problems. But at least Amazon actually sells something. It will deliver goods that you buy online to your house. Stake.com will take your money and redistribute that money as a gain, ultimately taking more for itself than it gives back to anyone who bought in. So when I look at a 95-5 split, it feels a little too good to be true. And when something feels too good to be true, and you're dealing with a cryptocurrency-based casino, forgive me for thinking it's too good to be true. Now, it's entirely possible that this is financially sustainable for them due to the unique connection to Stake as their parent company. The biggest category on Kick by far is gambling streams. Maybe one of the reasons the 95-5 split works is that Kick, as a platform, serves as a major advertiser for Stake's gambling services, and the money they're making by attracting new users is ultimately worth operating the streaming service, which would be losing money in a vacuum. That's arguably the more comforting possibility, that rather than being a deal that's too good to be true, Kick is going to operate at a loss to keep the lights on, like Twitch has been doing since its inception, because Kick makes Stake money. Maybe Kick is, on a macro level, just a marketing expense that's a worthwhile investment for Stake. But maybe that's not so comforting, because then Kick is being propped up by whatever sucker decided to bet a little too much of their ether on slots that day. So, could I potentially be making more money by starting to stream on Kick? Maybe. But also, as any teacher knows, there are some things that are worth doing for reasons other than money, and some things that make money that aren't worth doing. Right now, Kick doesn't seem like an ecosystem I'll feel comfortable with. And I'm not dependent enough on streaming to be financially incentivized to test that theory. Hope that helps you decide whether it's the right call for you. I wish you the best of luck, one way or the other.